Very good morning. Right at 12, so it's very good afternoon. Khalid Al-Tamimi is right at the back. I brought him along to make sure that he answers all the difficult questions. Right at the end, we have a few minutes for questions. About the DSSD program, I wanted to introduce you the background to the project, and then we will go into the resilient measures that we have implemented. This is the diaspora of the collection system that we have today before the deep tunnel is actually being implemented. What we have is two STPs. These are the two STPs that are centralized system. Dubai municipality is managing these two STPs. We have a suite of manholes, sewer lines. What we want to highlight is we have a lot of pumping stations. We have all these subsidiary pumping stations because in your community you will see a small sub-pumping station, and it pumps to a central pumping station, and then it pumps again to the sewage treatment plant. So all these pumping stations actually take up land, and you don't want to live next to a pumping station because of the odor nuisance. Everyone has that perception. So we have a master plan for Dubai, and we are transforming the master plan. This is what the deep tunnel sewer system will actually look like. We will phase out all the pumping stations, the main pumping stations, as well as the sub-pumping stations. Some of the pumping stations, we will hold them because they are too small to be phased out because of self-cleansing velocities for the engineers who want to understand. So this is what the network will look like. The tunnel programs, you will have two sets of tunnel, and you will have two STPs, and at the end of each tunnel, you will actually have a terminal pumping station, because the tunnel is terminal pumping station. For people who work in the STP business, they always call it the inlet pumping station. Just bear with the terminology, but we use the term terminal pumping station. So the blue lines are the link sewers, the red lines are the tunnels. I'm going to introduce you to the drop structures. Today's sewerage system are much shallower, and to transition them to the deep tunnels, the tunnel is going to be at the deepest point. At one of them is going to be at 118 meters. We are going to use the drop structures. So what you see as a drop structure, if you see the drawings at the top, all right, this is an abbreviated, shortened version to fit. You have a vortex on the left side, the drop structure, and we are in the northern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, the vortex rotates anti-clockwise. If you go to Australia and you try to replicate this, it doesn't work very well. So in the southern hemisphere, you need to do it clockwise, right? So this is a depiction of our drop structure. What we are going to do is we also have, when you have a sewage falling at a high plunge, 50 meters, 60 meters into a tunnel, you're going to have odor problems. So we have two different assets that we have created to supplement the drop structures. One is the odor control facility. That's very obvious. When it plunges, you have an odor control facility. The air jumper. The air jumper is being put in locations where we have connections to the tunnel. Water is plunging, but you cannot have an odor control facility there because it's sensitive. Hypothetically, it's a hospital. I'm just going to put a case forward. It's a hospital. If the odor control does not work, everybody in the hospital is going to suffer through. Everyone wants to be put on a ventilator as a result of that, right? So what we have is an air jumper is actually to force the air back into the tunnel. So when an air jumper is activated, the odor control facility in the system automatically activates. Because one is being pushed, the other guy will start to extract. So basically the whole system is going to be built out with this air jumper and odor control facility system. This air jumper concept comes from a Vancouver system. Singapore system has already implemented it, is under commissioning now, and the system will go into live in late 2025 or 2026. So we are the next one to use this air jumper system in a deep tunnel program. In terms of the terminal pumping stations, I introduced to you. So we have the Warsan TPS, which is going to be about 92 meters below ground at the location. So remember, the tunnel starts near the shoreline because that's where the developments are. As the tunnel goes inland, because the nature of the landscape is the land profile goes upwards, the depth at the deepest end, where the terminal pumping station is going to be located, since it's inland, is 92 meters at Warsan and 118 meters at Jebel Ali. If you look at the systems in step tunnel that you have here and everything, we are comparable depths. This could be the deepest tunnel in the world in terms of sewage handling, the pure sewage. Combined sewer system, the Chicago tunnel is at 115 meters. So we have not implemented it, but once it goes live, when we have implemented it, this will likely be the deepest system in the world at 118 meters, and we're going to have challenging in terms of construction. Here we have seen some 3D version of what the pump station looks like in Jebel Ali, the suite of pumps in an ultimate year scenario. So we will have an ultimate year scenario where when we completely build out, Dubai is completely mature for the catchments that we serve. This is what we think is it, but the eventual construction will go, when we go into construction phase, we will get better engineering and we will get the final designs. We are now in the phase of implementation, and we are implementing it by PPP structure. So as a result of us doing by PPP structure, we have packaged it, the Warsan catchment, the tunnel, the link sewers, and the terminal pumping station is going to be done together. The Jebel Ali is going to be split into 3 packages. If you see the green catchment is actually one package, which is package J1. Package J2 is a tunnel on the left side next to Palm Jebel Ali catchment, and the yellowish color is package J3. So we are implementing it in 4 different packages based on financial packaging, because it's going to be structured in a PPP structured contract. Now let's get into the crux of the talk. Now that I've introduced to you what the system actually is, what resilience did we put into the system? So as we designed the system, the tunnel has been enhanced. What we have here is, we have identified what we call flow uncertainties. One of the flow uncertainties is when we announced last year that we will phase out the existing DXB airport. So when you phase out the DXB airport, the Dera catchment area, now all of a sudden, you're going to have higher density development or taller buildings and structure. You can actually put a higher gross floor area in that development area. So as a result of that, what we did is we have identified, if you see where the airport spot is, I don't have a pointer with this, but what's going to happen is we have 2 provisions in the Warsan system for additional flows in the future. So we make advanced provisions in the tunnel so that we do not have to open up a tunnel. I mean, those who are in the tunneling business, once you construct a tunnel with stress, to decouple it and then to do a new connection is very, very complex engineering operation. It has been done before, but it's engineeringly very difficult. So what we have done is, in Warsan catchment, we have actually increased the capacity. I think you can't see the text at the bottom. We have increased the capacity of Warsan catchment from its original intention of 830 to 1560 million liters per day. So that if Warsan catchment develops more intense than what we planned for, we have 2 catchments to go in. At the same time, we all love to live near the airport. I mean, for some reason, finding an airport nearby is very convenient. So the moment the airport shifts to Jebel Ali, we are expecting more intense developments in the Jebel Ali catchment. So we've increased the Warsan Jebel Ali terminal pumping station capacity by 25%. You can't see the text at the bottom, but it's 25%. So it becomes 5,500 million. These are peak numbers. So what we have done is basically built in additional features, additional locations where we actually think future developments can actually connect in. Right? One other thing that we want to highlight to you is, while these capacities are being done, we need not change the sizes of our tunnels. What we did is work backwards. We already decided to put in this infrastructure. How much more can it take? So based on these numbers, Dubai can have a population of 14 million in this catchment. Anything outside of this catchment, further inland, we have to look at a different strategy, and that's a different business that we will look at in future. But in the business here, we can actually put in 14 million people in the infrastructure. So basically, this flow rates. Now let's look at the additional features that we did in. So if you look at bullet number 1, once we built a tunnel, then we actually checked into the features. What do we see? What we have seen here is, if one small pumping station today goes, maybe 100,000 people may be affected. Let's say it's 100,000 people. When you have a tunnel, and like I said, if the Jebel Ali catchment is going to have 10 million people, if a tunnel, for some reason, It is not because of the way we engineered it, but it could be a way because of external factors. Somebody else not doing their work, tunneling or some other underground work not right, or somebody sabotages the system. Because once you know that a country depends on this for public health, this becomes a threat. We need to protect the asset. So when we have that threat, we needed to make sure that we have a resilient built-in. So if anything happens to the Warsan catchment, we have interconnected. Bullet number one, we have interconnected the system. First step we took is how to interconnect. We upsize the connecting networks in the area in Jabal Ali. We did hydraulic modeling, and what we did is we are interconnecting with the green line in the box. This becomes a resilience connection. So with that, Warsan, anything that happens in Warsan can actually spill into Burdabai, and we can actually solve the problem. Basically, we say that Jabal Ali system, the tunnel and everything, ultimate year, we may have a bit of odor problems because now we have a large pool of water, but at least we have a solution to protect the system. Bullet number two, if you look at the one at the bottom here, is the stormwater tunnel. We have a stormwater tunnel, but what happens is, if anything happens in the Jabal Ali catchment, for those who are familiar with the thing, Jabal Ali catchment is a southern catchment. If anything happens in the Jabal Ali catchment, only 15% of the flows can go over to Warsan. So now you have 85% of Jabal Ali's catchment that is now going to spill. Where is it going to spill? Closer to Burj Khalifa area, and it's very close to the creek. But we do not want to have a spill, so what we have done, bullet number two, is a cross connection that we have actually identified between our stormwater tunnel and our sewer tunnel. Right? I'm going to leave it there. When we come to the Q&A, we'll tackle that. So we have a cross connection, and we're going to manage this cross connection in a different way. Then we looked at, when you have failures, right? You can have failures in multiple parts of the system. So if you look at detail A, there is existing large diameter sewers under implementation. So when we came up with the scheme for the large diameter sewers under implementation, we are cross-connecting. So if there is a small break in one of the link sewers, we can actually surcharge and bypass and come back into the tunnel through the bypass channel. So we are looking at interconnecting some of our large diameter existing sewers or sewers under implementation. We are looking at it from an angle of how it fits into the resilience of the tunnel program, where we have a loop bypass. So you have detail A, first one, and if you look at detail where the future tunnel. So when we implement this tunnel system, we downsize the tunnel to be able to take 14, instead of 14 million, the segment of tunnel that is coming from the closer to the data site. What we have done is we downsize the tunnel, but we made a provision for a future. The dotted line is actually a future connection. So we are making advanced provisions in the link sewers and the tunnel in the downstream section, so that in future we can do a small quick tunneling of 3.5 meter diameter, and the system will go back to 14 million. So if Dubai's projection of growth hits that population track, we can implement this. What does it add? Now if you look at the thing is, there is a loop bypass again. So by downsizing and creating this, we can actually hive off a catchment and create a loop bypass. So if there is a break in the tunnel on that segment, we can loop bypass and go back into the system. So we're actually looking at this looping as internal. So we don't want to go to the sea, but we want to make sure that we are able to loop it back in the system. And if there is a threat to our system, at least we have bypass. So we have similar looping systems are being looked at intensely for every single project that we do now. We are looking at it, how it fits into the resilient measures that we actually put in. Now that I have done the resilient measures, we want to make sure we use it very well. So what do? We looked at swing catchment. So what is swing catchment is basically, this is swing catchment number one. So if Jabal Ali capacity is being beaten, we are in a construction phase, we are delayed. For a short duration, maybe 1 year, we need to divert the flow. So what we have done is, we have looked at pumping station V, which is equivalent to 70,000 meter cube is a projected capacity. That's about 330,000 people equivalent. What we say is, if I put a small gate in the resilient system, I can actually switch this catchment, pumping station V, between Normally it goes to Jebel Ali, but if I want to put a gate where the blue arrow is, I can switch the flow to Warsan if Warsan has got capacity to handle 70,000. So I can actually, when I do the upgrading of my STPs, I also built in resilience. So pumping station V comes into picture for a first swing catchment. The second swing catchment is, before I go to the second one, I look at some of the features. So basically this involves dropping a gate. This gate is just going to be fabricated, it's going to be sitting in our STP. What's going to happen is on a day that we decide that we want to swing the flow, we just drop this panel in, divert the flow completely from pumping station V, instead of normally going to Jebel Ali into Warsan, as long as Warsan has the capacity. So when we upgrade our systems, we're going to now make sure that we play this balancing. So this is all about resilience, about tackling the uncertainties and making sure that we risk protect ourselves. This is the first swing catchment. Okay, now let's talk about the airport. The airport, when it goes, you see the airport is, if you see in the gray blank area in the middle, there's no infrastructure inside there, depicted there. We created pumping station K. When you look at pumping station K, the link sewer that goes into the Warsan tunnel, today that link sewer is there. We have now decided to put in an extra provision at the location where the two arrows are pointing. We have decided to put in a gate infrastructure. The reason of this is, in future, when the airport plans, when it goes, and the airport plans are much more clearer, what we're going to do is, we already made provisions today at MS2, in the middle of the tunnel, for any development that comes in the airport area to connect to the tunnel. So we have an advanced provision, I don't have to open up the tunnel. I already make an advanced provision to be able to connect any development that comes there. And then what happens is, I can swing pumping station K to this. So today's odor control systems will be built assuming airport is still there. When the development plans are clearer, we will then put in the odor control systems separately to manage that. So the odor control system that we're going to implement as part of this DSSD program will not factor in this at the moment. And the link sewer, if I put a gate now and close it, ventilation systems are affected because it's connected to the tunnel. Only the tunnel has got the odor control systems. So I cannot put it. So we will make the provision for a gate. We will have the gate ready, but we will only implement when we have a very good odor control plan for the whole catchment, when we understand what's the master plan for the airport area when it's going to be developed. So we have this is what I mean by advanced provisions and making sure that we have all the tools that we can. So we have flow being transferred within catchment, swinging between the two tunnel programs, or release to the sea, and then we have this swing catchment. So these are multiple faceted provisions that we have made to make our tunnel resilience. With that, I'm finishing. I'm going to take questions. I'm surprised that I raced through my presentation. I have 6 minutes, 47 seconds for questions. And because I wanted to use some of the question time to do more presentation, I prepared extra slides. Because I was not sure how fast I can actually race through this. This is what an odor control system looks like, right? When the odor control systems look like this, if you see the top left-hand corner is when you do a mass balance, the odor control system is going to pull air not just from upstream, but also from downstream. When the flow is coming in, the air is going to come into the system and is leaving the tunnel. And the link sewer that is connected, all three of them are going to have connections. So you have to do a mass balance. The air jumper is like that, where the link sewer's air is being forced in. As soon as you force the air in, the OCF will kick in. Along the tunnel, we have actually looked at air intake structures. In case the negative pressure is too high, we open the ventilators, let the air in to actually make sure the pressures are within control. At the terminal pumping station, we have the final OCF. So we call the OCF, our designers are here, Parsons. Glenn is at the corner there, he's waving. So they call it regional odor controls facilities. I call it OCF, they call it ROCF. Right? Each region, they have called it regional. I have the first question.
Yeah, I am Mohammed Ghazi. Thank you for these interesting presentations. Actually, it's not a question, it's just need to have some more clarification. You mentioned the cross connections between the sewer and the stormwater tunnels.
Yeah.
So I hope to just more clarification for this correction.
Excellent. So now you know why I have an additional hidden slide. This is the actual hidden slide, which is why I left that, because I don't know how much time I have. Now I have 4 minutes, 50 seconds. So let's look at this, right? If you see the Dera tunnel is here, the Burduba tunnel is here, the stormwater tunnel is on the other side. The lowest manhole, that means the top cover level of the lowest manhole that we have in our system is at +1 DMD, Dubai Municipality Datum, right? So what we have here is, when we ran the model, if you look at the hydraulic profile of the interconnection, right? We want to make sure that the lowest point does not spill and we have a connection to the stormwater tunnel. So this is what the surcharge condition looks like when you have a failure. And this failure is, like I said, is in the Burdubai catchment. In the Dera tunnel, we can actually bring everything back. So this is what it looks like, the hydraulic profile. We made the connection. And now the next slide. So now you can see that the Jabal Ali tunnel, the stormwater tunnel are very close. But what we have done is, the cross connection is at 16 meters above, close to 16 meters above the sewer tunnel. Our sewers are designed for 60%. Basically, whenever it's running, it's going to be 60% full in the ultimate year. That means we designed the system for 100 years. So when we say 100 years from 2030, when we finish, is 2130. Right? In the ultimate year, when the whole of Dubai is completely, in the catchment is completely built out, it's going to be 60%. But we also design our odor control system if we operate the tunnel in storage mode. If you are having queue in and queue out, the tunnel system is designed for 60% full. But if you want to use the downstream section of the tunnel to store water in your tunnel, imagine you don't have to have an equalization tank in the STP. You can use your tunnel as an equalization tank. Give me a minute, let me finish explaining. So what happens is, it's 60% full most of the time. So on a normal circumstances, it will never ever breach and go over. But we have 2 penstocks, double protection, to ensure that accidentally nothing happens where the sewage actually spills over. So this has to be a planned, concerted effort with the environmental agency, knowing that there is a crisis in the country. We have to open this and let the water to the sea. It is not something that you can just decide and operator just operate. We're going to put it in place with controls with the environmental regulators to make sure that this does not accidentally, nobody opens this. We also put a gate because the stormwater tunnel, I made separate presentations on it. I got 2 minutes to go. Stormwater tunnel operates under overflow condition, where the system is under surcharge. That means the stormwater tunnel is always on a surcharge condition whenever we do near-shore discharge. So we want to make sure that the stormwater does not come into the system. So that the resilient link sewer is put in a level where if there is a problem, the system surcharge before the first manhole actually spills out sewage, it crosses over and breaches into the stormwater tunnel. So we have 17 hours to react.
Okay, so you allow the sewage, let's say, to have this connection in case of emergency to go into the storm tunnels.
Stormwater tunnel and discharge 4 kilometers offshore. Our outflow pipes are 4 kilometers. This is unlikely to happen, but I cannot guarantee there is no threat from somebody coming in and sabotaging us. And I can turn up in a backpack, take something, open a manhole, throw it in, boom. I have enough methane inside there to sustain fire for a long time. My sewage tunnel is gone. I cannot control, but we have put in as many measures to actually make sure that we protect our asset. This becomes a very protected asset. So my 3 slides, hidden slides, see how I maximize my slides? I keep 3 slides at the end and minimize the questions. Any other questions? Khalid is standing right at the back. You should ask him something. I want to acknowledge Parsons, Glenn, put up your hand again. That's part of my design team. Right? Stormwater tunnel, John is here. He was part of the tunnel team. I'm happy to have both of them here.
Yes, hello, Mr. Dr. Jaya. Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Mustafa Mubarak. I'm from KSB. Actually, I just want to ask you about what is the capacity, the current capacity now for the tunnel. You said that in 2130, the tunnel capacity is 60%.
Yes.
Now, what is the current capacity?
We are designing when we say 60%, we design the tunnel as a collection system, 60% only full. I mean, at ultimate year,
I'm talking like in 2030, what will be like 20% of the tunnel capacity or?
today's flows will come
Yeah.
in, right? It
Yeah.
will, Warsan will be, we will ask for a capacity of about 1250 as a built-in capacity. We will have in excess of what population is. Like I said, we are not planning just to meet the flow, but we want to do this swing. We want to be capable of protecting the system. So we are actually putting in slightly in advance. So this is a strategy that you have to actually fund to actually protect the system. So this is what you call planning, resilience, so that 1250 is ahead of what the population growth is. But we are looking at investments of 1250, and ultimate year 1560 is what we are. This is peak flow. Our peaking factor is expected at about 1.3, but when the tunnel is commissioned, when we get actual attenuation of flow, the tunnel becomes like a storage system, so we're expecting the peaking flow to drop. I'm seeing the organizers are waving at me to tell me that I'm spending too much time here. Any other last question? Otherwise, during the break, you can look for Khalid. All right, thank you.